Hello guys, welcome back to the YouTube channel Math Start How To. Today we will learn to solve quadratic equation by completing square. In my previous videos, I have solved this same quadratic equation by using other methods. So this is not the only way to solve any quadratic equation. You can use other methods like using a formula or by factorization, or you can even use graph. For those other methods, you can search for my other videos in the same channel. But today we will work on solving quadratic equation by using completing square method. So before we dive into the process, let's talk about all the words that are in the screen here right now. So first thing you can see is, let's start with equation. When is anything called an equation? In mathematics, any expression which contains this equal to sign is an equation. So in contrast, you can see something with these signs, which are called inequalities. So these give us inequalities, equal to give us equation or equality. Then quadratic. Now any polynomial or any expression or any equation which has variables, we look at the power of the variables. Here the variable is y, and the power of variable or the exponent of the variable in the first term is 2. In the second term, the exponent of y is 1. In the third term, the exponent, you can't see any y, but that means there is y to the power 0. Y to the power 0 is equal to 1, like we all know. It's called zero exponent rule. So here the exponent of y is 0. Now the largest exponent is 2, and when any uh, polynomial has its variable with largest power 2 or exponent 2, it is called a quadratic polynomial. So any equation that contains quadratic polynomial is called a quadratic equation. If it had only, if the highest value was 1, let's say y square was not here, and if it was only negative 34y plus 225 equals to 0, then between 0 and 1, 1 would be the bigger thing, and this equation would be called a linear equation. So linear equation is not concerned for us today. We are worried about quadratic equation. Now solving, what do we mean by solving? Whenever we solve any equation, what we are trying to do is we are trying to find the value of variable y that actually satisfies this equation. So when I say satisfies this equation, what I mean is, like, if you put y as 1, does that give us the same values on both sides of the equation? So right now on the right hand side of the equation, we have 0. So we'll putting value of y and simplifying, like then squaring and then subtracting and then multiplying. No, we have to follow that order. So you have to first multiply, and then whatever you get, you have to subtract it from y square. So if you do all that thing, do you end up with getting a 0? So value of y gives us 0, or 2 gives us 0, or 20 gives us 0, or negative 300 gives us 0. So this is what we are trying to do when we are solving quadratic equation. Now, there are multiple ways to solve quadratic equation. The one that we are working on right now is by completing square. And before we dive into the process, we need to know what does completing square mean as well. So let's start with square. So 4 is a square number because 4 can be expressed as a product of 2 with itself, 2 times 2. But 6 is not a perfect square. Why? Because it is a product. Fine, we can express it as a product, but these are not the same thing. Then again, look at 9. 9 is a square number. This is a square number. This is a square number because I can express it as 3 times 3. So this is how we find square numbers. Same case with variables also. A square is a square number because I can express it as a times a. But then a cube is not. A cube is not a perfect square. Why? Because we can express it as a times a times a, but it is the product 3 times. All right. Or you can express it as a square times a, but it is the product of two different things. One is a square, another is a. So this is not a perfect square. But if I give you a to the 4, it is a square because I can write it as a square times a square. Multiply something with itself and it gives you this number. So these are basic square numbers and square variables that happens in algebra. Once we get, like, not with just numbers and with variables, once we get expressions like this where we have three terms, the first term is y square, The second term is negative 34y. The third term is 225. So if it has three terms, these kind of expressions are also called trinomials. So there is a square form of trinomial also. You may be confused right now what I'm trying to say. Let's go to the next page. So if your trinomial is in this form, right, it can be written as this, which is a square. See, because this can be written as a plus b, a plus b. Now, if you don't believe me that if I multiply, like if this is equal to this, or if I multiply these two, you will get this. You can use distributive property and multiply and see if you get this. I will do that in my another video, the detail of this work. But for this video, I'll just say that if you can get your trinomial, the expression, the equation that you are given to factorize, if you can write it in this form, you can write it in this square form, which will help us find the values of the variables, right? There is a small change with sign. If the middle term here is plus twice AB, that means the sign is also plus. And if there is minus in the middle term, you can say that there is minus in the middle, right? So everything else is same. The sign of the second term is different. If it is positive, your square is also positive. If it is negative, your square is also negative. Now here this a square and b square are the terms like 4, 16, x square, y 4. Because if the first term is 4, you can say that a square is equal to 4. That would mean that a would be, you'll have to take square root on both sides, right? So you'll get a is equal to 2. Even though there is plus and minus 2, in this case positive thing will work. And then if it is x square, then you can consider a square is equal to x square. And if you take square root on both sides, you end up with a is equal to x. Or your a can be y to the 4 also. So if a square is equal to y to the 4, if you take square root on both sides, you end up with a is equal to y square. Because there are 4 y's, if you take square root, half of them will go away. So this is how we find, like a can take any value. It does not always have to be a. So in your equation, the variables are not always a and b. They could be a, they could be b, they could be x, they could be y. A is just a representation, a variable representing those variables. So what you need to do is, whenever you are trying to factorize a quadratic equation, first you want to find out what is your a, and then you want to find out what is your b. Once you do this, everything becomes simple, right? So in these examples, I told you like how to find a. I've given you few examples. So let's go back to the question and let's try to figure out what is a. So this is our trinomial. Let me erase this and let's just go away, go away, go away, and go away. Yes. All right. So this is the trinomial we want to, or quadratic equation we want to solve by completing square. And our first target is to find a and then b. So how do we find a? Always look for any term that has a square in it. There are other ways to find a. The easiest way is, if any term has a square, then it can be considered a. So in this case, you can see that y square, it has a square in the top. So you can take a square is equal to y square. What that will do is, that will give you a is equal to y. So half of the problem is done. You found a. You wanted to know a is equal to what? And you wanted to find b is equal to what? So we have found a is y. So half of the problem is done. Now we want to find b. Now in order to find b, what you do is you take the middle term. What you do is you take the middle term and you divide by 2a. So in this case, our middle term is 34y, and you divide by 2, and a is, we have already found a to be y. So what do we get here is 17. So done, b is 17. You have found a, you have found b. Now what needs to be done is, you have already done the part where you have to do a lot of thinking. So what we do next is, First thing we do is once we find a and b, we take this constant term on the other side. Remember, we found a by using the first term, we found b by using the second term. We have not used this third term at all. So what we will do is we will just subtract negative 225 or add negative 225 on both sides, and we will get rid of this. So we will have y square minus 34y equals negative 225, right? Now what we will do is we will look at b. I guess I should go to a new page and do it in a clean way. Yeah, looks cluttered. So I have y square minus 34y plus 225 equals 0. And what I've already known is that in our case, a equals y, b equals 17. And we found this by using the first term and the second term. Right now, we did not use this third term. So what we are going to do is we are just going to throw this third term away. So this gives us y square minus 34y equals negative 225. Now, another crucial step now is add b square on both sides. So our b is 17. So you can say y square minus 34y plus 17 square equals negative 225 plus 17 square. Now what magic happens is this trinomial here, this can be expressed in one of these two forms, either this upper form or this lower form. So let's just look at the sign, which form we can take it to. So because the sign here is negative, that means we should be able to take it to the negative form. So this is a square minus 2, a is y, b is 17 plus 17 squared. So this is in that form now. See, this is a square minus 2ab plus b square. One thing to check is that when you break this middle term, it should give you negative 34. So negative sign is here, 2 times 17 is a 34 and y is here. So this middle term also matches that, right? So the left side of the equation is in this form. The right side, you can simplify it, negative 225 and 17 square is how much? Like 16 square is 256. So 17 square is it 289? Let me check. 17 times 17, 289. Yep. So this is 289. Now, this left side, this trinomial, we have already told you that a square minus 2ab plus b square can be written as a plus b whole square. So I can write it as your a is y and your negative sign in the middle because there is negative sign, and b is 17, y minus 17 squared. And on the other side, I have negative 225 plus 289 is a positive 49. Is it? It should be. Wait, 64. 225 minus 289. Yes, not 49. Sorry about that. I am thinking wrong. So that is a positive 64. Now what we do is we take square root on both sides. Once you square, you take square root on both sides. And because you take square root, on this side, you can cancel this with this. And 64 is actually 80 square. Like 80 square is 64. So square root of 80, 64 is 8. And because we are taking square root, you have to take both positive and negative sign. Now, if you take positive sign, and if you take negative sign, you have to solve it separately, right? So if you take it positive sign, you will get y minus 17 is equal to 8. So you add 17 on both sides, and you end up getting y equals 25. Now in this side, we have negative sign. If we take negative sign, so positive and negative sign means this. So once you take positive 8, another time you take negative 8. So here we took positive 8. Now in another case, we are going to take negative 8. So if I add 17 on both sides, I'll end up with y is equal to 17 minus 8. Let me do it correctly this time. It should be 9. So we get two values of 9. So our final answer is, when we are trying to solve this, where is the original place? So we were trying to solve this equation and we got y as 25 and 9. So what this means is, if you put y as 25 here, y as 25 here, and then do the math, you should end up with 0. And the same thing should happen when you put y as 9 also. And I have done this same equation by using other methods also, where I have got the answers as 25 and 9. So it must be correct answer. You can check me by putting y and simplifying things and see if you get 0 on both sides. Do comment whether you get 0 or not. If you don't get 0, I'll try to figure out why you did not get 0. If you get 0, I'll just congratulate you. Yeah. So thank you for watching this video till the end. This is how we solve quadratic equation by using completing square method. I will come up with more videos with other tricks and techniques that we can use in mathematics. Bye for now.